Shut up. You're annoying. You talk too much. Your clothes are disgusting. You're not even that pretty. No boy could ever like you. I immigrated to the United States from India 6 years ago, and throughout 5th and 6th grade, my classmates and friends would ingrain these words in my head. The insults started as casual remarks and over time became worse. Until one day, at science camp, the ringleader of our friend group screamed at me in front of 20 classmates and 2 chaperones. Shut up. You are so freaking annoying. Do you ever stop talking? I was 11 years old, too young to understand toxic friendships or describe the enormity of my shame. But those words, that I'm annoying, irritating, disgusting, were repeated to me so many times that they were ingrained in my head like tattoos. I often thought, if my friends are saying these things, then it must be true. Food became my way of coping. In just 3 months, I gained 35 pounds. I dragged myself through the halls of middle school with unkempt hair, unflattering boxy glasses, and ill-fitted clothes. Those words had found a home in me. They had become my truths and reshaped my identity. In 2 years, I went from being a vivacious and friendly person to someone who ironically embodied the words that were constantly repeated to me. Unnoticeable, unapproachable, unappealing. It was a dark time. First came the emotions. I felt sorry for myself. I had been manipulated and belittled. There were angry days, sad days, depressed days. Some days I grieved the loss of my genuine self. But when I was finally exhausted and wrung dry, when I was finally done being sad, sorry, and depressed, I became a critical thinker. I began to reflect on my past and question my role in the situation. Why was it that I believed what my friends were saying about me? Why was it that the more I heard those things, the more they felt true? American economist and social philosopher Thomas Sowell said, "Some things are believed because they are demonstrably true, but many other things are believed simply because they have been asserted repeatedly." Repetition has been accepted as a replacement for evidence. That was my eureka moment. I had finally understood the root cause of my problem. Repetition molds the mind. The more we hear something, the more likely we are to believe it to be true. Because I heard what my classmates were saying about me repeatedly for 2 years, I internalized them, and their words slowly reshaped my being. This is what psychologists refer to as the illusory truth effect. It occurs because of a glitch in our brain that equates repetition with evidence. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, our brains are capable of processing up to 100 billion operations. That is 6 trillion operations per minute. But there's a catch. Our brains hate working hard. They prefer to operate comfortably and efficiently, just like we do. Now, I don't know about others, but I find doing math with my dad to be one of the most excruciating experiences. It's 12 in the morning. The dining table light is dim. My dad is watching over me like a hawk with his arms crossed. My eyes are glued to the paper, my palms sweating, my hands shaking, struggling to multiply 36 times 45 within seconds. And when my shaky hand finally reaches for that calculator, my dad sighs, "You American kids, so dependent on your calculators." In my defense, my brain and calculator are doing the same thing. It's just that my calculator is doing it a lot more efficiently. So why wouldn't I use it? My point is, the brain prefers efficiency over effort. It prefers the easy and the familiar because the familiar feels right. Vanderbilt University psychologist Lisa Fazio says that when you see the fact for the second time, it is much easier to process. You read it more quickly. You understand it more fluently. Our brains interpret that fluency as a signal for something being true. Repetition fools the brain into believing things. Now, not all of us are aware of this because we often associate repetition with positive outcomes and situations. Memorizing information for a test, learning a song, storing karate moves in muscle memory. But history has proven that repetition is equally as harmful as it is beneficial. Authoritarian institutions, marketers, political figures have all utilized the power of repetition to manipulate and control individuals, groups, and nations for a very long time. It is how advertisements work, why propaganda is created, and why we believe fake news to be true, especially when delivered by someone with power or fame. In Mein Kampf or My Struggle, Adolf Hitler wrote about the big lie, a lie so outlandish that people would believe it to be true because no one could believe that anyone would dare to lie so boldly. Adolf Hitler used the big lie as a way to fuel political propaganda. And Joseph Goebbels, mastermind of the Nazi propaganda machine, emphasized that all effective propaganda must be limited to very few points, and that they must harp on them in slogans until the last member of the public understands them. Can you imagine what the Nazi regime could have done if they had Facebook, X, or TikTok? Today, a president can dispatch a multitude of lies through social media to millions of people in just one click. On social media, lies take a life of their own. Repetition of misinformation has eroded trust and sowed discord in society during wars, elections, and the pandemic. Now, if repetition were the only thing that influenced our beliefs, we'd be in trouble. But it isn't. Yes, I fell prey to the toxic words my friends constantly repeated to me in elementary school. But once I became aware of this glitch in my brain that equates repetition with truth, my critical thinking saved me, and I was able to debunk the glitch. I didn't have to believe that I was annoying, irritating, or disgusting anymore. In order to debunk those words, I used the same concept of repetition to cleanse my brain of their toxic ideologies. However, I didn't repeat to myself, "I am not annoying. I am not average. I am not disgusting." Repeating that would only give those words more power. Instead, I contradicted their statements and replaced them with healthier alternatives. I am likable. I am pleasant. I am affable. Then I dug through my memories to back up those claims. My friends in India, I've known them for almost my whole life, and they've accepted how talkative and energetic I am. My parents, who've accepted me no matter how I am. It took me 3 years to undo my friends' criticisms of me and to refamiliarize my brain with healthier ideas. But how do we know that we haven't already internalized misinformation? In that case, if you think of something familiar or true that you have in your mind, but you cannot recall where you heard it from or why it's true, that is your warning sign. Then we can start undoing it. And for that, use the ABC of critical thinking. A is for asking yourself, is it really true? B is to believe nothing, no matter how true or familiar something might seem. And C is to collect your evidence and check your facts. Your brain might balk on the extra work, but the more you repeat this method, the more familiar it becomes, and the less your brain will resist it. And if you ever hit a roadblock, consult an expert. Psychologists and cognitive scientists are experts on the inner workings of our brain, so they can provide strategies on how to identify misinformation and how to objectively look at evidence. Repetition molds our minds. So we must use the ABC of critical thinking to debunk that glitch. We must dare to think critically so that we prevent falsehoods from taking root. We live in a world where facts matter, and they should matter. If we do not bother to validate what we believe and what we repeat, we are creating a world where falsehoods and truths are easier to confuse. And we do not want to inhabit a nebulous world. We want a world that reflects truth, because only the truth matters. So please, think before you repeat. Thank you.